All right. So let's talk about South Africa's apartheid system. All right. So from 1948, it was from 1948, it lasted to 1994. Okay. What's that? 46 years. So now, how you define apartheid, right? So apartheid was a legalized system of racial segregation in South Africa that institutionalized white supremacy in South Africa. Now, let's go over some of the policies. So 1913 and again in 1936, you had land acts, right? Natives were forbidden from owning land in 87% of the country. All right. So laws were passed which restricted Black South African movements. They needed permits to enter white areas. What about the Bantu Education Act? It offered inferior education to Black children, right? No voting rights, as you can imagine. Blacks were excluded from national elections and political participation. And here are the outcomes from those policies. You had forced removals, e.g., Sophiatown, get to that a little later, economic exclusion, deliberate undevelopment of Black communities, right? Forced removals, deliberate underdevelopment of Black communities. All right, now, after apartheid supposedly ended in 1994, post-apartheid legacy, you can say. So poverty and disenfranchisement. Many Black South Africans inherit little to no general wealth. So many Black South Africans, many Black South Africans inherited little to no generational wealth. Township infrastructure remains underdeveloped. The Rainbow Nation rhetoric has not resulted in economic equity. Okay. So employment and economic status in 2025. Unemployment in 2025. Overall unemployment, right? 32.9%, right? That's pretty much the first quarter of 2025. Youth unemployment, ages 15 to 24, 59%, pretty high. Now, Black unemployment, disproportionately higher than other racial groups, right? So you got Black South Africans, 37 to 40%. You got whites who are more less, 8 to 9%. How about job opportunities? Sectors with employment potential, informal sector, public works programs, mining and agriculture, but exploitative, very exploitative. Tech and services growing but limited access due to education barriers. All right, what about land ownership? So, despite post-apartheid land reform promises, white South Africans make up 7% of the population, but they own 72 to 80% of private farmland. Black South Africans make up 80% of the population, but own less than 10% of the land. Land reform is slow, underfunded, and politically sensitive. Willing buyer, willing seller. That's the motto criticized for favoring white landowners. Willing buyer, willing seller. Okay, so population comparison, Black South Africans 81%, white South Africans 7.3%, colored mixed rate 8.3%, Indian Asian 2.5%. So total population in 2025, 61 million. A caste-like structure or second-class citizenship. Yeah, that's a jump. So it's not officially that, but it functions as that. Okay, so economic apartheid persists. White South Africans dominate in wealth, land, corporation, leadership. What about townships versus suburbs? Residential segregation continues de facto. Okay, it just works on its own. This quote. Education, rural schools in Black areas remain severely under-resourced. Healthcare, private healthcare is accessible primarily to whites and the wealthy elite. Plus, all right. So the current president is in 2025 is Cyril Ramaphosa, African National Congress (ANC). in office since 2018, faces criticism for failing to implement land reform, corruption within ANC, high unemployment, and economic inequality. All right, so anyway, so systemic inequality remains deeply embedded. Apartheid's economic and social architecture has morphed into a de facto racial caste system, especially through land, income, education, and job access. Blacks remain politically free but economically trapped, mirroring second class status in so many ways.